The Dove Creek Elementary School Bond Committee is set up to provide outreach on the ballot issue coming up in November 2021 to explain why there is a need for increased taxes to help pay for a new elementary school facility. A map is available with the site issues divided into educational suitability in blue, safety and security in red, and maintenance in yellow. Kendra Cook with DCTV was given a facility tour with Principal Charlotte Forst to provide a first-hand look at many of the conditions that exist to provide the basis for the new building tax request.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Forst and I'm part of the Elementary Bond Committee. If you have been paying attention to some of our social media and some of the events that we've been at, we've been trying to let the community know about our bond to propose for a new school. So one of the things that we've asked a lot of the public is, have you been to the school recently? And a lot of the people have said no. And so we want to make sure that everybody knows some of the obstacles that we have here at the school, some of the things that are deteriorating. It would be very difficult for someone with even some minor disabilities, some mobility issues to be able to get up and into our school. One of the things we have here is this hand railing. It's the only hand railing. There's not one on the other side. And if we look at the doors and the door access, it's kind of tough to get to the doors. So that's one of our very first concerns. So come on in and I'll show you the rest of the school. So here we are at in the office. The office for normal spaces right now is not big enough for what we're needing. We have a very small space for our secretary to be able to do the things that she needs to do. This is typically the space where we receive students if they're having some issues, say in class, disciplinary, or even maybe social emotional. And so it's not very private because if you look here, we have a window where the general public comes in. The other thing that a lot of office suites have anymore is a meeting space or a conference room in order to have meetings for, say, special ed meetings. Those need to be very private. So here's the principal's office. The principal's office isn't, it's probably not a terrible space, but it is a space that if I do have a family come in, oftentimes I have mom, dad, maybe stepmom, dad. Sometimes I have four parents in here at a time. And sometimes a student, sometimes the counselor, sometimes another teacher. And so it does get quite crowded in here in order for me to have some of those meetings. So this is the 5th grade room. This is probably one of the newest, this is the newest classroom in the building. It was not meant to be a 5th grade classroom or just a classroom in general. It was meant to be a technology lab before laptops, when we had the desktops and we would have several stations of desktops around. That's these pieces here that make this room a little bit tough to teach in, and these can't be removed because they have electrical going in them. This is a nice room for storage. No doubt it's a really large room. That's the nice piece about it, but there's not a single window in the classroom. And so it does make for a long day without any natural light. All right, so this is our nurses station. If you notice here, there's no door for privacy. So we do have students that lay down here. Some of this has to do with us being able to have some visibility from the office, but they're pretty much kind of tucked away here, and not extremely private because if you look at the doors over here, you can basically see the doors here, and some people can see little feet right here. Our nurse, this is basically where all of her supplies are. And so, and the other thing is if we have a kid that comes with a cut, there is no bathroom, there is no sink or water. So you typically have to go ahead and tell a kid to go back and wash their hands after they've been hurt and they've been crying. They have to go back, wash their hands in the bathroom pretty much by themselves, and then come back, and then she can go ahead and she can give them a Band-Aid. So this is the nurse's office. So there are some things here where she does have a bed, but oftentimes the kids sit on the bed on the other spot because we only have one nurse, and we end up sharing her between the two buildings. So in order for us to have a line of sight on that student, we're sticking them on the other bed. Our counseling office. And so this one's probably fairly sufficient. One thing though is that between these 3 rooms, they have these, they put in these new mini splits, but these mini splits work on 1 thermostat. So if it's between 3 rooms, so if one person's hot, the other person's cold, so we have a little bit of issues with that. So this is our speech pathologist room. It's one of the services that we receive from BOCES. It's the Board of Cooperative Educational Services. And she's lucky, she has a space to be able to give her services in. But I have multiple other BOCES people that service us that don't have great space at all, and I'll show you that later. So this is our technology room, and this is the tech room for the entire district. So you can see that it's undersized. She doesn't have a lot of space for her stuff, and so it's probably not as organized as it could be because of the lack of space. She's one of those people that doesn't like to waste a lot of things, so she does save a lot of things. But if she had a larger space, that would be much easier to do. Her office back here, like this is Grand Central Station right here as far as our technology goes. I mean, this is home base where a lot of stuff happens, and it's a pretty tight space as well. So this is our special education room. There's lots of things about this room that don't fit a current special education program. So we have a lot of dividers in here. I have 3 people that are servicing kids all at the same time. So we have several different stations here. This is supposed to be kind of a calming space, but it's not really big enough for what we need for a calming space. The other thing is if we were to ever end up with an autistic child, we really don't have some of the things that they recommend. They recommend like these swings that hang from the ceiling, and some spaces for them to be able to, I guess, feel safe, and some devices. We have a table here, and we have this really tiny space of a table right here. And the teacher's desk is back here. So we need a much larger special education space. So this is the teacher workroom. It is a fairly large space for a teacher workroom. With that being said, oftentimes I'm really supposed to have my meetings in here, but this space really isn't sufficient to have meetings, so typically I go ahead and I pick a classroom instead, just a better setting. We have a projector up here, but because the way that the lighting works here, in the morning these blinds really aren't sufficient to filter out the light. So if we project onto this board here, it's virtually impossible to see. So we have that. We do have a copier, fairly nice workspace here. We also, this is our lunchroom too. So as far as a break room, it's also where our teachers typically eat. One of the things that's interesting to note is that we don't have any hot water here. And so when we wash dishes with cold water, because it used to be set up with our boiler system. And since we have new heat now, we have no boiler system, so therefore no hot water. So to wash dishes, we use this Instant Pot, and we put warm water in the sink, and that's how we do that. This is our girls' restroom, and there's a few things to note about our girls' restroom. First off, this is supposed to be our ADA accessible restroom, but it's really not within standards of being wide enough. The other thing is that there's no door on this particular stall, and so that is something that is really tough. Some other things here, we do have these automatic flushers, which are something that we got with some COVID relief in order for us to have some kind of non-touch surfaces, but our water pressure is such that sometimes if everybody flushes at the same time, the system can't catch back up. It just kind of continues to flush, and so sometimes we have to remove the batteries to be able to recharge the system to be able to get back up and going again. Down here, these are not, although they're beautiful, because Robert went ahead and redid these for us, they're not ADA accessible. If they had a child in a wheelchair, there's no way that they would be able to access the water and get underneath that base. And in our boys' restroom, we have these urinals, and they are the type that if you wave at them, they'll, or I guess when the kids stand there, they automatically flush. And I had complaints a while back ago that the kids were causing the urinals to overflow and the water would go into this drain here. And they were saying that maybe the kids were causing it to happen on purpose. I brought the janitor in and I said, I think it's probably just our pipes. So we waved at it and it flushed probably 3-4 times, and just within that amount of time, the water was up and over the urinal and going into the drain. The other thing to note, same sink situation, but in this particular scenario, there is no bathroom here for someone who would have a wheelchair and have some special needs. So this is tough. If we had a kid that needed something, we don't have the way to provide access to it. So this is an interesting space. This was initially the office, the main office of the school. And so we had to build a wall here at one point in time. There's light in this room, there's no light in this room. This is our snack room in order to be compliant with our snacks. This right here is an old safe that's not used as a safe. And that's another thing about this school. We have a very small safe, but we don't have a vault for student records. Right now, our student records, say we were to have a fire, they would probably go in the fire. This is where a lot of our BOCES services have to happen. So BOCES is basically a place where they provide special ed services. So occupational therapist, our social worker, a specialist on eyesight. And so when they come here, this is the space that they get. And you notice the windows over here, it says do not open broken, and those are actually newer windows. The other problem with this space is we have this divider here, and what this divider is supposed to do is give them privacy, because right here is one of our staff restrooms. So it's very likely that services get interrupted while staff typically knows not to come in here while we're providing services to use the restroom. So this is our RTI room, which for those of you guys that know more about Title I, it's basically a new term for Title I. And so this is where reading intervention happens. So a child who's showing maybe, not always the children that are showing deficiencies. We provide interventions for our advanced kids too, in order for them to be able to meet their educational needs and for them to continue their growth. But we have 3 different desks here for three different staff members. We have an intervention station here, and oftentimes you can kind of hear what's going on here. Of course, we have this divider here, but we oftentimes have an intervention going on over here. And sometimes we'll even have kind of an area here where we have some intervention going on here. So a lot going on in this room could probably be set up a little bit better in order for us to provide better interventions. So this is our first grade room. And so as you can see, we have these curtains here, but the sun certain times of the day is pretty intense. These windows were replaced, but one of the concerns that was brought up to me by someone on these windows is that if you were needing to evacuate, or like the firemen be able to get in, it might be a little bit tough for the firemen to get in. One other thing is on the other side of the school, we have a big bank of windows, which is concerning to have that big of a bank of windows in a school situation. Some other things to note is that across the entire building, there are no fire sprinklers, and so nothing for fire prevention on that end. The other thing to note is, yes, we did get these new mini splits in order to have some heating and air, but these, I'm told, are not a permanent solution. The guy that installed these told me that these are not a permanent solution, and he wanted me to know that they were not a permanent solution. But basically, we had to do something, because my very first year here, we had our boiler system. We couldn't get our boiler system fired up. We were missing a part. It was getting pretty cold in here. We had students in jackets and coats. I mean, it wasn't to the point that we were concerned and needed to send kids home, but had it gotten much colder, our school would have been shut down because we didn't have heat, and we just babied that system along for the year. And so this is basically just a Band-Aid to get us through. Some other things that you can note as far as our technology is concerned, you can see the wires that are just kind of strung all over. These blue wires are for our internet, and so they're just kind of everywhere. Some other issues with this room have to do with the fact that we don't have, the further down in the building you get, the kids can't all be on the internet at the same time. And with how technologically based our education system is these days, that's impairing our ability to be able to teach properly, if not all the kids can be on the internet at the same time. Another issue that has been brought up is that on this end of the building, about this time of the year, maybe a little bit later, I usually get phone calls in the office saying that there is a sewer smell. And I have tried to mediate that sewer smell. I've tried to let our maintenance staff know. Our maintenance staff has done things like replace the donuts and check under the toilets and do some different things with the sinks to try to get rid of that smell, and it really just doesn't go away. And so there is concern that there are pinholes in our piping underneath, and that things could be leaking underneath the building right now. And so it's definitely an infrastructure problem. These doors are extremely narrow. In fact, we did have a girl at one point in time that was in a wheelchair, and she actually had to use the boys' restroom instead of the girls' restroom because we had a divider in the girls' restroom at that point in time, and there was just no way to get her down there. And what they tried to do initially was take her all the way down the library. So this is our preschool room. Our preschool room, this is a room where I get complaints about the sewer smell. I also get complaints about mouse smell in this room, and I've never really found any evidence, maybe every once in a while, nothing huge, but there's some speculation that maybe there's some nest in here somewhere, behind some walls, spaces that we can't get to. Another thing that's interesting about this room is this room connects to the preschool playground, and so we have this bank of windows here, and all we have, the kids go ahead and they ride their bicycles and stuff here, and the only thing we have protecting those kids from going through that glass are like, this looks like a 1x6 here, and maybe a 1x4, and some these are 1x4s. So anyways, that's all we have keeping them from going into those spaces. And then if you look out there, I don't know if the video camera can catch it or not, we have these units, there are mini splits, we have these units, and the kids are playing around those. And so there's concern with the fans. They do have screens on them, but I still have concern with the fans, and I have concerns with the kids. We have kids that run into those every once in a while. Another issue that we have here, the bathrooms, similar issue that we had in the other spaces, real narrow doors. Again, oftentimes we kind of have the odors that people are complaining about. So this is one of our gas lines, and still operational as we use the gas in the kitchen, even though we don't use it anymore for any of our peak sources or anything. One of the major concerns with this is that this was built around it. This is our pickup and drop-off line. And if you look at the pavement, like even right here, the pavement is just, it's just absolutely deteriorating. Not good. I have to go through a lot of bumps to be able to get cars through here. In the winter time, when you parents pick up about right here on this corner, and we have a whole line of cars back here. And then in the winter time, I have to block this whole thing off, and they go up this hill, and it's slick as can be, and we have cars that can't get up here. And so all of our food for the entire school comes in right here. This is the dock that we receive the food on, and I will take you back inside so you can see how this is done. But if you look, there's quite a bit of a slope right here, and so if we have a snowy day, we are not able to get the food in this entrance, and we have to bring it in from the north playground entrance and haul all that food down the hallway. And I'll show you where the ladies store that food and what a chore that can be. So this is our kitchen, and initially I was talking to you about how we receive our deliveries. And so we'll go up these stairs. They're very narrow stairs, they're awkward stairs. The ladies have to haul their food up and down these stairs. Looks like the light's not working. If we look out here, you can, I guess, for a point of reference so you can see where we're at. Oh, and this door doesn't push out, pushes in. So if someone were to hit that just right, they could push someone all the way down the stairs. So this is where we were at before. So this is the door where the food deliveries are received. If you come up in here, this is a wonder. When my mom was going to school here, she said this is actually the library, and they would walk the kids through the kitchen and they would come up here and they would check out their books. But now this is food storage, and so it's loud. There's some ventilation here, but it's not cool in here whatsoever. It's hot. We do have a hot water heater there. Talking about hot water, when the kids are washing their hands, the hot water runs out at lunchtime because we don't have a big enough or a large enough hot water tank to be able to handle the hand washing that happens at lunchtime. This one actually, it's right here. The guy would hit it. So very low ceilings in here in order for them to be able to work. These are heavy cases. A lot of times I'll have to carry a whole case down those stairs. My lunch ladies are pretty petite, and so it's pretty hard for them. It's pretty physical. There's one more thing to note is if you're very tall, you're going to hit your head right here. So you'll have to bend down while you're carrying this stuff, and then you get to come in here and work in this kitchen. There's some things here. Like this is our cooler. Obviously we're going to probably be receiving a delivery here soon, but this is not enough space for what we need. And so we have coolers stored all over the all-purpose room and on the stage in order to store all of our food. Totally scared me. So this is our freezer space. Obviously not enough room, really not enough room for anybody to even walk in there. It's very, very tight. Is the food director's office space. So they have to do a lot of reports. There's a lot of accountability with school lunch programs, and so this is where it all happens. And so she really doesn't have a nice space in order to be able to fill out her paperwork. And it's in here in the kitchen where they have lots of flour, so it gets dusty. We have computers that kind of get eaten up by that. We have an incredibly old Hobart that these are quite the machines. They actually like this one. As far as the kitchen goes, this particular piece doesn't even, the range works, but the actual oven piece does not work anymore. They don't use this anymore. But we can't really replace it. We can't get rid of it. It's too large to get out of here. There is no way to get this out of here. They must have built around this once they got it in. As far as when they light this, it no longer lights correctly, and so they have to, she showed me the other day, they have to go ahead and turn on the gas, and they have to do this, or they have to blow to get the gas to the pilot light in order to be able to get that to start. They said they've only burnt their eyebrows maybe a time or two. So we have that. This one, I don't think they use this anymore. They do use this. One of the things that they talk about is when they open it, it doesn't open wide enough. Like it could open wider, but being in here and all this equipment that can't get out of here, that doesn't operate anymore, they stick it in here, and both of my ladies have scars on their arms from the burns that they've gotten on these doors. One thing we get written up by the health inspector every single year is that our water drains into this floor drain here. This is like the kitchen sink. There's no real plumbing out of here. So it drops down from that pipe and onto that kind of filter. And the problem with this on a food safety standpoint is that food chunks and things can get caught in that filter, and then it can bring in rodents, it can just bacteria, all kinds of things are a problem there. Another issue that we have is water pressure. I don't know if you can see that. And sometimes they have no water pressure at all. If we have all the kids use the restroom at the same time, which sometimes happens at recess, field trips, everybody has to use the restroom at the same time. We call it a super flush here. Whenever we have a super flush, all of a sudden we won't have water, and sometimes it takes 45 minutes to recharge our water. Our dishwasher is in disrepair. This was something we got written up by the health inspector. The water wasn't hot enough, and so now they've got the water hot enough, but with the water being so hot, it leaks, and it leaks extremely hot water now. But it's basically extremely hot water or not hot enough water. So that's an issue as well. Some other things we have going on here. We've got very old steam tables. We typically can pass health inspection on this, but it's really old. Same type of thing. Storage space in here is practically non-existent. If you look at it, there's shelving, but this is only cabinet space for the whole kitchen. And so this is where the trays are stored. The trays should probably be stored a little bit better than that, but that's the best we can do. The silverware is underneath the steam trays. And so this is definitely a tough kitchen to work in. Even when you think about the space with them walking around in here, you have to be very careful not to run into each other. These here are a safety hazard. Hot water runs through here, and you touch your arm here, you're going to get burnt. Especially, I guess, on the hot water one, you're going to get burnt. And so this is an interesting setup all in itself as well. So I'm sure I've missed some things. It's very hot in here. They do have a cooler, and kitchens are notoriously hot. I don't know that you can ever do anything for that, but the ventilation system, so they say they had to put in, this is another thing we got written up for at one point in time, we didn't have a ventilation system. So they had them put in a ventilation system, but they say it's so loud that it just, it hurts their ears. So they run it at times, and there's times that they turn it off because it's just not comfortable to run. This is our PE storage. This is actually supposed to be the PE teacher's office. When I was a kid, the PE teacher actually had a desk here where they could go ahead and lesson plan and do their grades and such. This is all the storage in here. Not very much space, obviously. It's about as clean as you could expect for the size of space that we have here. So this is our all-purpose room. This is where the kids eat their lunch. It also serves as a PE space. The one thing that we don't have is we don't have a place to do indoor recess. So one of the things that we would really like to have as an elementary bond committee is we would like to have an all-purpose space where we could have a place for the kids to eat and a divider, so that if we had inclement weather, we could go ahead and have the kids have some indoor PE space. Right now when that happens, the teachers basically miss out on their lunch, and they have to supervise indoor recess in their classrooms. So this is the space. This is PE, and it looks no different on any day that we're doing PE. It looks exactly this way. We've got a milk cooler in the way. We've got carts in the way. We've got these carts here. We've got tables with trash cans. We've got some janitorial supplies. This, by the way, is one of the coolers that I was talking about in order to have additional cooler space. We have a microwave. I've seen the microwave get hit by the basketball on multiple occasions, and we have to purchase a new microwave every once in a while, but we just really have no space for it anywhere else. We have, of course, some more janitorial supplies here. Our ladies, in order to take the trash out, have have to go up these stairs and around the corner to where the trash cans are located, or the dumpsters are located. As far as these tables go, the kids are running around at PE time around these tables. You'll see them sometimes knock away, fall down. Sometimes the kids are hiding between the tables. If the kids want to get ornery, if kids get behind, they can push on the tables. And so it's really not a safe PE environment. Not to mention, this is the public space that we have. So sometimes we'll do award ceremonies. It's typically where, before COVID, it's where we had our graduations, kindergarten graduation, preschool graduation, and honestly, you can't hear a thing. You can hear the noise of the coolers. You can hear those motors running, and so I'll take you up on stage so you can see that piece. These are our freezers. We have another freezer over there as well. And so as far as the freezers are concerned, this summer we actually had one go down. We had no alarm on these freezers. They're not set up the way that they need to be. And so we had to throw out a whole freezer of food. One more thing that I forgot to mention is outlets. Outlet space, like even in this room, is difficult. If you see that there is an extension cord with a hole drilled there, where an extension cord comes out, and that's where we push and we go ahead and we plug in the milk cooler when we're serving, instead of having the kids use the milk cooler over here in this corner. And so outlets are an issue everywhere in this school. In the classrooms, we have some outlets that aren't working. It's an old school, so it's not built for what we use modern technology for, so we don't have near enough outlets. And I have some places where the circuits don't work, where if we plug hardly anything in, we pop the breaker. So I guess electricity is an issue here as well. One of the highlights of our school is our library. It's a nice children's library. We have lots of books. Right now the book fair is going on. We do host the book fair in here, and really it's the only space to host our book fair. And so it makes for a very kind of a crowded space. Lori's very good about making it nice, even so. But for example, these are our bookshelves, and so kids don't have access to these books as well during this week as they would maybe at other times. This is the fax machine for the whole school, located in the library. We don't have a fax machine in the office. And so that is a little bit concerning when we get documents that need to be kept private. Here's the one thing that Lori complains about is the fact that she has no storage in her library. She really doesn't have, all she really has is this bank of drawers, a couple cabinets, another small bank of drawers, but there's no other storage anywhere in the rest of this library. So she's made do, and she stores a lot of her stuff. This is a staff bathroom, and I'll probably have to close the door here so we can get a good shot. This is another staff bathroom. All kinds of storage going on here, and really the reason why it's become this is because there is no other storage space. So this is where we go ahead and load our buses on this corner here. And so we have this color coding system that's actually new this year, and it color codes to a picture that's in the bus. And so if you look at this bus situation, typically what we're doing here right now is we're blocking off this street at this corner. I guess this is 8th Street, and then the street on south here is 7th Street. So we block it off at 7th, we block it off at 8th. The buses come in from the bus barn, they go around the block, they come back up around here, and so we have the buses parked here. We have had it happen oftentimes when, and I think people, maybe they're confused, I don't know, but we've had people go ahead and come through this intersection here, go right by our buses when we're trying to load buses. And so that's a big safety concern to me. A lot of people, some people really like our pickup and drop off situation. Some people don't love it. The reason why we did our pickup and drop off situation the way that we're doing it, the reason why I close off this street is because staff told me that there's been several instances where kids have almost been backed over or run over when we've just let them go in the door and we've let this street stay open. So we had to come up with a better way to make it more safe. So if you look over here on the south end, I release students. We have a crosswalk and a crossing guard who helps the kids cross the street there on 7th Street. And so I have kids going out here, I have kids going out at the front door, and I have kids going out through the pickup and drop off line. Most schools only have 2 places for pickup and drop off, and that definitely helps the situation to just have the 2 places. Eliminate some errors. We do have kids every once in a while that end up in the wrong place, and it's very difficult to figure that out. We do use radios, and so we figure it out fairly quickly, but it can never be quick enough, and your heart just kind of drops when you know that you have one that's not where they need to be.
For all of these details and a continuing discussion online, visit the Dove Creek School District New Elementary Building Facebook page or contact Ty Gray or Charlotte Forst.